Welcome to another segment of About Business, the Economic Resource Council of Nevada County, bringing you news and information about the vital businesses of Nevada County. And today we have a special guest with us, Mr. Brent Smith. He is the CEO of SED Corporation out of Auburn. Welcome, glad to have you here, sir.
Thank you, Gil. Nice to be with you again.
Came up all the way from Auburn here today to talk to us about what SED Corp does relative to economic development of the region. Tell us a little bit about who is SED Corp.
Well, SED Corp stands for Sierra Economic Development Corporation. We've been around for 39 years under our previous name, Sierra Economic Development District, until we changed our name last July, a year ago. We are a regional economic development organization and a federally designated economic development district, which relates to the story of changing our name because in California, of course, the title district has a different meaning. As a consequence, we became SED Corp to indicate that we are a private, nonprofit corporation. Our business is business, our job is jobs. We deal with other businesses in a number of manners. We serve a 4-county area, Nevada County being one of those. But our primary support area includes El Dorado County to the south, Placer County, Nevada County, and Sierra County, who were the 4 original chartering counties for the creation of SED, now SED Corp, these many years ago. Additionally, among the services we provide include being a small business lender, and we are a designated small business administration microlender, meaning loans of $35,000 or less, for which our designated service area includes the 4 core counties that I mentioned, plus Sacramento County, Yuba County, and all of the counties north of Sierra along the Nevada border up to the Oregon border. Additionally, we are a USDA intermediary lender. The distinction there is that it allows us to make business loans to rural corporations up to $150,000, generally through that same area for which we support the SBA. So we're a regional economic development organization, a private nonprofit corporation, receives its funding primarily from a number of grant sources, a little bit of support from our core counties, including Nevada County, but we're a grant-driven organization.
Great. And your primary offices are located?
We're at 560 Wall Street. We're a Wall Street corporation in beautiful Auburn, California, just off of Palm and 49, so conveniently close. I spend a good deal of my time here in Nevada County and traveling to the other counties that we support. It takes about 45 minutes to get up here, a pleasant drive along Highway 49.
And what kind of staff remains behind while you're out gallivanting these 4 counties?
Well, we have a staff of 5. There are 2 of us that are full-time, and then we have 3 that are part-time that provide this variety of services that I mentioned before. Of course, part of that part-time staff does our bookkeeping for us, but we are, as a consequence of being a small, lean organization, stretched most of the time. We work hard to cover the number of bases that we have to cover.
Good. I'm familiar with your staff down there and just want to say thanks to you and your staff for what you do for the ERC. And let's talk a little bit about how those 2 organizations, the Economic Resource Council of Nevada County doing economic development here, SED Corporation doing economic development on a sort of a regional basis. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, gladly so. I tell you, I'm very proud that a part of my duties is to be a member of the board for ERC. It allows us to fulfill the potential of the relationship between our organizations. I mentioned a couple of times there that SED Corp is a regional economic development organization, and that means that in addition to attending the ERC meetings as I do here in Nevada County, I attend similar meetings for the counterpart organizations in each of the other counties. That allows me to gain a perspective that allows me in turn to bring new ideas, cross-level information from what's going on in the counterpart organizations throughout the region. Of course, I also share what I learn with ERC with those other organizations. Again, the idea is that best practices are duplicated and there's an opportunity for each to gain by the lessons learned by others. As a regional organization, I see, in addition to this cross-leveling information, an opportunity for us to address challenges from the appropriate perspective. ERC, your organization, is ideally situated and intended to address economic development concerns on a county-wide basis. And I know you deal with each of the incorporated cities in the county, certainly with organizations within the county, and that on-the-ground, up-close personal contact allows you to gain the insight and perspective needed to do what your organization do to facilitate economic development. We, on a regional basis, of course, provide the information that I mentioned before and bring additional resources to bear. I mentioned that we are a grant-driven organization. We have and will continue to seek grant funds for projects that support the local area, largely driven by ideas that you may garner from your contacts or that may come to us from other Nevada County resources such as the Board of Supervisors or city councils from the cities, city staff, and others who recognize a need and turn to us with the simple question, gee, is there something here that SED Corp might do to help? And we're happy to do that. That's why we exist. And we've had some success in the past. I anticipate being able to continue to succeed to address local areas from a regional perspective and bringing our regional resources to bear in the future. And of course, I don't want to understate the value of our loan programs. Again, your insight and that of other members of the ERC into local needs, your ability to share your knowledge of the resources that SED Corp can bring to bear often can and has led to our ability to make loans to businesses here in Nevada County that are in need of access to capital for business expansion, for improvement of facilities, and any number of other business-related needs. So we have an excellent synergy, and that term really does apply well to the relationship between ERC and SED Corp. ERC having the local, up-close and personal, first-hand perspective, daily contact, lots of information about what's going on within your area of responsibility, and SED Corp bringing a broader area perspective and, of course, financial resources that can be applied locally.
Very true. There are a couple of points that you brought out that I think are very fascinating for us, and that is the idea of the cross-pollination from other jurisdictions, so we get the benefit through SED Corporation of what's occurring in Sacramento, El Dorado, Placer counties, and to a great extent the whole North California community. So that allows Nevada County to see some of these solution sets to common economic problems. And secondly, I want to talk a little bit more about the loan program, because the loan program sometimes seems to be a mystery to businesses. They say, well, yeah, a loan, you know, why would I want to come to you? But I'd like you to talk a little bit about what is where your loan program fits in relative to the banking community. Sure. And then secondly, how does the ERC features into what you want to do about the lending programs? Great
pair of questions. And you're right, there is seemingly too much mystery, but certainly a lot of mystery about this whole banking process, lending process. First, I have to say, to a great degree, we're just like a bank, at least where lending is concerned. We don't have checking accounts and that kind of customer banking service, but we do provide loans. Our lending is a very personal lending. It's a little less institutionalized, a little less corporate, if you will, and we in fact foster the personal relationship in lending. One of the reasons why I think there's mystery in the business lending business is because a business owner needing capital goes to a bank or a credit union. He fills out an application and then it seems to go off into a black hole, and he hears nothing more about how the process is going to work, what to expect. Whereas with SED Corp, we encourage that personal relationship, that discussion that works both ways. Here's what we're going to do, here's what we need from you, and that relieves some of that mystery. It's especially valuable to a number of the businesses that we have served and that I anticipate will continue to serve in the future, in that many of the businesses that we deal with have had difficulty in getting access to capital for any number of reasons. They're in a rapid expansion mode, for example, at a time when their capital resources are tapped out, and yet they haven't demonstrated the cash flow yet to be able to make them credit worthy, as the term goes, from a regular commercial lending institution. Or we deal with small business owners. We're talking about the individual entrepreneur, for example, who haven't established a credit record yet, or may even be coming off some credit difficulties. And by this personal relationship that I described, we can work with them. We can get their story. We can understand why their credit report is the way it is. We can even work with them to improve their credit scores, and of course work with them with the development of their business plans, their financial projections, and get a good solid idea about the ability for that business to be able to repay our loan, all stemming from this personal relationship. Now, all of that works well in the ERC environment in that, again, as I described earlier, ERC is an interpersonal organization. The members know each other, members talk to each other, the members work with each other. And when one individual, one business owner says, gee, I'd like to have some money for something or other, it affords the opportunity for another one of the members who perhaps the first one has not had exposure to SED Corp yet, to be able to say, well, by the way, have you considered SED Corp? In addition to this personal banking relationship that I described, we also have some advantages over commercial institutions in that we don't typically charge all of the fees and service charges that are normally charged by banks. Typically for our loan programs, we have a single fee. It's a funding fee that helps pay for our staff, and all the rest of that stuff goes away. So there are advantages through your organization to working with us for our lending programs. And of course, probably one of the greatest strengths of our lending program is that we actually encourage a personal lending relationship with the businesses that come to us for their needs.
So would it be fair then to make the statement that you invite inquiries, the business people who don't know the lending system and say, but if I had capital, I could. Do you really invite those people to contact you to start that discussion and dialogue?
Oh, absolutely. Gil, we know that there are a lot of businesses out there with greater potential to succeed that because of this uncertainty, because they don't know what to expect in the lending process, are reluctant to enter into it. Well, that reluctance means that there may be opportunity loss in terms of additional jobs to be created and, of course, revenues to be gained that would be shared through the community because those businesses are located here. We love inquiries. The worst that anyone can expect is that as a result of the inquiry, we'll have to say, gee, I'm sorry, we can't help you. But if that's the worst, and what's to be gained in between is a better understanding about how the lending process works, about what other alternatives that there may be, because frequently when we can't help somebody, we can refer them to someone else who can, then that helps relieve the mystery and hopefully leads to the kind of success that we're talking about, success in solving problems that can be solved with capital.
And I think one of the other aspects of this lending capability is that since your mission is about economic development, and we could perhaps even reduce that down to say job creation. We want to create more jobs. That if a prospective client were to come to you with a loan request who maybe didn't have a business plan, who had some questions about how does cash flow work, that you would know how to drive them to entities that could help them resolve and answer questions, train, and do that.
You're exactly right. Another one of our partners is the Sierra College Small Business Development Center, and in fact, though their main offices are located down in Roseville, for clients here in Nevada County, worst case scenario is that they would have to come to Auburn to our offices. But we make our offices available to counselors from the SBDC who will lead these business folks or entrepreneurs, prospective business folks, through the process of developing good, meaningful business plans, starting with the question about whether or not they should even be in business. And that's an important question for so many, especially entrepreneurs. So in addition to that partnership, We ourselves have some experience and some skill at business counseling. We do it, as a matter of fact, with our loan clients. Once we make a loan with a client, we don't just sign it off, close the door, and wish them good luck, but rather we follow up with them on a periodic basis, 2, 3, 4 times per year, including going to their business location and visiting them on site. Our mission is their success. And so it's not just about getting money out the door. It's making sure that that money is used effectively, that the businesses succeed, that they have good business plans, that they follow their business plans, that they track their progress and adjust as necessary. And we, of course, will participate in every step of that.
Great. I know that you and I have worked on a couple of potential loans in Nevada County. I've got a couple more that have surfaced recently, and this is an exciting part of the economic development. So when we're trying to create jobs, it is capital that allows that to happen. And so it's great to have a resource like you that can provide that needed capital to move that prospect of creating greater jobs along. So thank you and your staff for what you do for us in that regard. I want to move on to some other things. I've got a couple of other issues I want to talk about. And there's some other projects that I know that you're working on down at SED Corporation, some broadband stuff. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely, be thrilled to. You have a particular question, or can I just
No, I want to talk about
that?
broadband. What does that mean?
That's one of my favorite topics. You know, SED Corp was honored to be identified by the state as a regional economic development organization to lead a regional project focused on the proliferation of broadband service throughout this 4.5 county area, that the 4 counties I mentioned before, plus the eastern side of Alpine County. And the idea is that first the Governor Schwarzenegger, signed an executive order saying that everybody in the state of California should have broadband internet service available to them by 2010. Broadband simply means high speed. By definition, that means dial-up service over a regular telephone line isn't good enough. That typically operates at a maximum of about 56,000 bits per second. And we're talking about, as a minimum, speeds of 5 or 6 times that fast in order to be able to meaningfully take advantage of the capabilities of the internet today. It's a world commerce, and that world of commerce is on the internet. To access it and to operate within those environs meaningfully, you need broadband service. So the state of California has adopted a goal that everybody should have broadband access by 2010. And we've been tapped to undertake a project in a 4.5 county area to address 3 questions. First, who has it and who doesn't? What they might do with it, what they're willing to pay for it. We call that demand, aggregated demand. Second, in dealing with the broadband service providers, provide that first set of information to them and say, here's the demand throughout this area, what will you do to service that demand? Our goal is that throughout our area, at least 2 broadband service providers will be available across the area, so that there will always be a choice of service. We know competition is good. It tends to lead to greater service and less cost, and that's one of our incorporated goals. And the third task that we're under contract to the state for is to go into each of the jurisdictions and find out what kind of policies and procedures they have to promote the expansion of broadband service, capture that information and cross-level that information, sharing of best practices so as to advance broadband service. We've been undertaking this project since the 1st of April. We have done a number of community workshops throughout this 4.5 county area, including 3 in Nevada County. Had excellent turnout. The largest turnout we had was for one up at North San Juan. We had 56 people in the room, and a lot of interest. One of the best things about this we've learned is we have a sophisticated audience here throughout this region. Folks understand what broadband means. There may be some nuances about the kinds of services, kind of applications they may use, but they know they want it. And that's a change from where this kind of effort began several years ago back in the East, where people didn't know why they need it. Here they know. Their principal question is, how soon can I get it?
And what is the answer to that question?
Well, you know, the answer is we're doing pretty well. As a result of our lending practices, we've been able to make business loans to a couple of those broadband providers, and we're talking to a couple of others that have led to the acceleration of the deployment of their systems. Sierra County is a perfect example. Sierra County, as of just a few months ago, had essentially no broadband. There were a few services available to the government, to the school, and to one of the major businesses. But the general populace had dial-up service for the most part. We were able to identify a provider, make a business loan to them, and that has led to their deployment, and it's ongoing right now into Sierra County. We anticipate by the end of summer that at least half the population of Sierra County will have broadband service available to them that just a few months ago they did not have. So we're moving quickly. We're moving as rapidly as we can. There are good folks here in Nevada County working independently that we've been able to tap into. I know that the service here in the greater Grass Valley, Nevada City area is improving as we speak and is going to get even better in a very near time frame. And we're devoted to expanding that service throughout Nevada County so that the entire county's population, all 100,000, have broadband available to them within the next 2 years.
Why is that important from an economic development standpoint? Why do we need broadband countywide?
I mentioned one reason before. The world of commerce is on the internet, and to access it in a meaningful way, you need broadband access. So many of today's websites have so many bells and whistles on them that without broadband service, you can't access them. It would take half hour, an hour just to load a single website without this broadband service to them. So that's one reason. Another is that study after study after study throughout this country has shown that when broadband service comes in, broadband service, the faster access, that businesses spring up. We know that these are tough economic times, and so the opportunity for those entrepreneurs to create that home business via the internet that's made possible by having broadband access is, of course, an important step for us to be able to take. We want to make that service available to them, give them the opportunity to create those businesses, create those jobs, just as you said, Gil.
True, and one of the things that the Economic Resource Council is somewhat focused on is bringing people to the community who work telecommute as their job. You can be a structural designer and live in Nevada County just as easily as you can live in Walnut Creek. And those are good jobs, clean jobs, low carbon footprint jobs, low natural resource users, and yet bring in wealth from other places. So
you are exactly right. You know, Nevada County is blessed with a lot of high tech already, and as long as you stay fairly close in Nevada City, Grass Valley, then the kind of telecommuting you're talking about is readily accessible. We want to expand that opportunity so that more can be encouraged to do their business by telecommuting, and more businesses can be encouraged to allow their workers to work from home. If the broadband service is available there for them to do that, then those other benefits can be gained from it.
Good. We only have a little bit of time left, but I do want to touch on just one other little subject that I know you work with, and that is an economic indicator report. Can you talk a little bit about what that is, how that occurs, when we might see the next one?
Yeah. Over the last several years, SED Corp, previously SED, created an economic indicator report of our own. We would contact the local jurisdictions, we would gather information from a number of sources, and produce a relatively small document that simply captured the data with very little analysis to it. We have taken on a task to expand on that, to first provide more data by tapping into more sources, and second, to provide some analysis for it. In taking this direction towards creating a new economic indicators report, we're partnering with Chico State's Center for Economic Development. And in an email I had just this morning, in fact, from the director of the Center for Economic Development, we're now taking up a new dialogue about how we can work together. We had in mind creating an electronic version of that one. That one has kind of fallen by the wayside temporarily, but I hope by the end of the week to have a new arrangement worked out with Chico State and focused on producing the next version of the indicators report within the next couple of months, we hope.
terrific. I look forward to that. I know you and I have talked a little bit about the Economics Indicator Report. I've researched a few historical documents in regard to that. Valuable document. I've talked to community leaders and the civic organizations who regularly keep one of those on their desk and refer to it often. So I would like to see that come back, of course. We have just a couple of minutes left. Is anything we haven't touched on that you'd like to make sure that you get broadcast out before we leave today?
You know, just one. We touched briefly on the lending programs. I mentioned that we have a couple of lending sources. We can make small loans through our SBA program, and it has some details associated with that about what the funds can be used for. We can make a little bit larger loans through our USDA program, greater flexibility associated with greater funds there. But I also want to mention that we provide service to the city of Grass Valley that has its own business lending program. We do processing for them, and so for those businesses or business owners who happen to see this report within the boundaries of the city of Grass Valley, take heart in knowing that there are multiple resources available to you. Again, I'd like to encourage them to contact us or contact the city directly about their loan program, and we'll be happy to do anything we can to help facilitate that access to capital.
Great, because access to capital is what can help jobs grow. So we're very fortunate to have this capability here. I want to thank you, Brent, for coming up today to talk to us about this. And I think the takeaway I would like people watching this to know is that call us and ask the questions. Call the Economic Resource Council. We can direct you to SED Corp and help facilitate that. It's a vital program. It's available to us, and it's not as mysterious as we might think it is. So thank you for being here today. I thank all of you for watching the program today, and we'll be back again with another segment of About Business. Thanks.